Today in the Thoughtfully Fit gym, we had a free workout and we explored what it looks like to build trust in your relationship. But we looked at it through the lens of trust as a verb and how can you behave your way into trust, which is a little bit unique compared to what we normally think about trust as a noun. So, Nancy Clark, tell us a little bit about what this workout was like.
Oh, well, so there's, I love this whole idea of trust as a verb because, trust is the thing that makes every relationship work, right? Whether it's a professional or personal. And so when you start to say, well, how do I increase it? Or how do I know if it's enough? When you think about trust as a noun, you're kind of thinking about it's the degree of confidence you have in somebody, right? But it's like, okay, well, what's an eight? Does an eight, like, what does that even mean? Or what does a five mean? I don't know. So this whole idea of trust as a verb is that it's not, is there trust? It's how do I show trust? How do I do trust? Right? Which is saying, how do I act my way into being somebody that somebody can trust.
And
So
and I just want to highlight what I love about what you're saying, Nancy, is how do I show trust? How do
yes,
I demonstrate trust? How do I behave? What we didn't look at and what we're not exploring in this workout is how do you get someone else to be trustworthy? We're
right.
looking at what are the behaviors, and this is grounded in the thoughtfully fit practice of strength. Strength is
Mhm.
an internal practice of how do I consciously choose to show up in a relationship, and in this case, show up in a way that is going to increase trust.
Yeah. And show up, right, is that that implies a verb. That implies a behavior. So I want to share my screen, Darce, and make this a little bit more tangible for people that are like, what do you mean by that? Uh, so here's an example, and this, by the way, comes out of Stephen M. R. Covey's Speed of Trust. So I want to give credit where credit is due because it's not as if this is a magical set of behaviors and it doesn't necessarily maybe incorporate everything, but I think it's a pretty good one and it's just built in very common language. And so if you take a look, every one of these starts with an action, right? Like create transparency, listen first. So that's what we mean by a verb, is it's a behavior that you're bringing to somebody, that is a behavior that helps to build up this idea of trust. As a noun is the doing trust creates trust. So
Yeah,
when
and
you
and I'll just
yeah,
highlight that their research found that these are 13 behaviors that increase trust.
yes.
And of course, there's a 14th is other. There are other things, but these are really the top things that you can do that will instill trust in a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you look at the list, when you think about, is it a new relationship versus is it an established relationship that you're trying to take even further? I mean, all the behaviors are important, but some will become more important than others, just depending on where you are in that relationship, because you've already got a solid, like, you're really good maybe at listening first, but maybe you are new to a job and you don't have a lot to speak in terms of the things you've created, right? So the show results get better. That's a different kind of trust, which is more about your capability than your character. So they're all important, but some become more important than others depending on what it is you're trying to do with the situation.
Yeah, and just to really ground this for a moment, I mean, we've been friends for decades, and I'd say the trust is
Mhm.
so deep, it's unwavering. And I think that when I look at this, you are, keeping commitments, listening, showing respect. You are accountable, loyalty. All of these behaviors. I could give examples of each of them, and that's one of the things that is what I love about this workout is that it gives you a concrete, tangible way to be able to demonstrate trust and to be able to measure trust in the relationship based on actual behaviors.
Yeah, and it gives you a playbook to assess. Gosh, I do 13, like I do 12 of these really well. This is the one I struggle with, right? So then it becomes, well, if I were to get better at that. And so let me just show you the next slide. I'm a middle school teacher by design. So we would use this, it's called the T chart. And whenever you have this word that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, you say, okay, but if I talked straight, what would it look like coming from me and what would it sound like coming from me, right? So talking straight means I'm not kind of, beating around the bush. I'm not saying what I'm not doing first, right? Like I'm just trying to put it out there. And yet what it sounds like isn't, so what it sounds like is, so I have something I want to share. And, what I noticed the other day was blank, 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 right? So talking straight is just being able to, it's kind of sharing hard things, but in a way that's not in this roundabout way. And yet it's respectful. It's
Yeah.
not blaming, it's not defensive, all of that.
Sarcastic, passive
So,
aggressive,
yeah,
all of
yeah.
those behaviors can erode trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. The other nice thing about looking at the list, I'll go back to it, is that the behaviors that are more about performance based, so they're like the get results, practice accountability. Those are things that are more about your capability, and they can certainly build trust, and they do build trust as you get better and better and better. But some of those things like be respectful, create transparency, really speak to your character. And so those are the things that will really elevate trust very quickly when you demonstrate them. And so they almost have like a weighted factor on them, that it's like, boy, if those are the ones that are, you're not able to talk straight and you beat around the bush a lot, or or the show loyalty, you talk about people behind their backs, or if they're not there, those are major, major trust busters, right? And those are hard to repair. You can, but they're hard.
Yeah, and the one, what we did in the workout then is had you look at what's a relationship that you want to improve the trust, and then what can you do, what
Mhm.
behavior, what verb. And when you think about righting wrongs, man, anytime, and it's hard to do. Like if I've done something wrong, it takes a ton of courage and vulnerability. But anytime that you can right wrong, and certainly if someone comes to me and says, hey, I screwed up. I said something, I snapped at you, I didn't mean that, and I'm sorry. What it looks like is naming it. What it sounds like it
Yeah.
is apologizing and making it
Yes.
right. That really builds trust.
Yes. Yeah, whether it's a friend, whether it's a customer, right? That's what service recovery is all about, right? Is it's like, yep, we didn't hit it on the head this time. So here's what I'd like to do to, make that better and really try next time to, hit the mark.
Yeah.
So whether it's personal or professional, that's the other thing I love about these behaviors is they apply to any kind of relationship, whether it's a child, it's a sibling, or it's a coworker or boss. It doesn't matter. They all apply.
Yeah. So if you want to improve the trust in your relationship and in your organization, reach out to us. We have a lot of workshops, we have master classes, we have
Mhm.
trainings, and we do a lot of team coaching and individual coaching around how to improve relationships and improve accountability and get results instead of regrets. We would love to work with you. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.